Hello and welcome to I'd Love to Listen, the podcast that introduces you to everyday folks about their lives, their passions, and their struggles. I'm your host, Laura Jean Souza, a connection coach, mom, and fundraising professional who loves listening to people's stories because I truly believe that everyone has a story worth sharing. Today is our first episode, and I'm so excited to introduce you to my coach and mentor, Tanya Penny. Um, Tanya is an illness and trauma guide, divine purpose and intuition coach, and has been my coach for over 10 years. In a twist of events, she's actually going to interview me today as I share my passions, my struggles, and a glimpse into my life for all of you. So, Tanya, thank you so much for being here and welcome.
Yay. Thank you, Laura. Fun to be on the other side and interviewing you. So, yeah, let's go ahead and dive in. And can you tell us a little bit about who you are
Yeah,
and your family and, what brought you to this point on your journey?
gosh. So, I, yeah, well, I am one of two children. I have a younger brother, and I grew up in a small town in Connecticut. And I was always active in sports. And then at one point in my life, I was diagnosed with a genetic disorder that just gave me this hard shift in my life where I was told I couldn't play sports anymore. And I went and started doing more in music. I thought that can be competitive. How great. So I'm a musician by training. I got a music education degree and I taught middle school band for a few years, taught some high school marching band in there, and found that that really wasn't for me. So I thought, oh, I'm going to be a flutist and go do that. And I went and started and really went into a flute performance degree in New York City and just found out like so much about myself being on my own from a small town in a big city. And it's actually the first time I met you was I did a master class one summer and was introduced to your work and was just totally taken aback about how much I didn't know about myself and how much I wasn't listening to my own body. I had so many body issues like stomach pains. Just I was just sore from playing the flute. Like there are just so many things I wasn't paying attention to in my own life. And I was just doing this New York City grind culture and pushing and I mean, it's where I met my husband. So it was really like it was really lovely for that experience. And, we're together and we have two children now. And since New York City, since the pandemic, we have found ourselves in the great state of Ohio. And my husband's a professional oboist at a symphony here. Um, and I'm our main, stay-at-home mom. I do work part-time in fundraising. I do coach my own clients and I love it, but we have two kids of our own. We have an almost 4-year-old boy and an 18-month-old little girl, and they keep me really busy. um, yeah, I mean, that's just such a small that was like a quick, like from childhood to where I am today, but it's not like the easiest. Gosh, I could probably talk for hours about what got me here, right? But in the end, I
Yeah.
am a mom who is raising two kids with a husband who has a very active performing career.
And you have a very full plate, right? So you're not
Oh,
only a full-time mom, which is really to two kids. So it's like two full-time jobs. And
right.
then, seriously, and then you also do fundraising for the symphony, I believe, at this point.
Yep.
And you also started your own coaching practice
Yeah.
last year. I believe it
Yes,
was last year that you started that. So you have a really full plate.
I
Yeah, you have a
do.
really full plate, and yet you seem to. Well, we'll get into that because that's what you're gonna tell people about. But
Yes.
first of all, what inspired you to become a connection coach?
Well, in my what I was
And
just
what
saying
is
before, yeah.
and what is and what is like, for people listening, like
Hmm.
a connection coach?
Hmm.
Yeah, like what does that mean for you?
Yeah. So it's twofold for me. So I got into this because I realized I wasn't connecting with myself and I wasn't trusting my own intuition, my own guidance. I was the child, the person in life that would take someone's advice and run with it. Even if it didn't really feel like it was something I wanted to do, it just felt safe. And
Mm.
I was going to do it and just go. But my I was just having so many horrible stomach pains that would put me in the hospital, like spasms. Sometimes I get migraines, and I felt like I was in this constant state of breakdown until I found
Mm.
your program and realized that, oh, I don't actually know what I like. I don't even know what I don't like. And I just kind of felt like I would hustle, hustle, hustle,
Mm.
crash, recoup for a weekend of like being in bed or however long I needed to recoup where I did nothing. And then I'd start up feeling refreshed, like I did something good for myself, hustle, hustle, hustle. And then I just kept rinsing and repeating this cycle. Um, so for me, part of being a connection coach is helping people connect with themselves, learning who they are, what they like, what their non negotiables are in life, like what is something they really need. And then on the flip side, in my professional life, I have noticed so many times where there is a breakdown in communication in an office where people just needed to connect with each other, learn how to communicate better, learn how to voice their opinion in a compassionate way, understanding that the feedback they get may not be what they wanted to hear. But throughout my career, my door has always been open to people coming in asking for advice on an issue with a colleague, or how do I ask for this raise, or is this really the job for me, and how do I get out of it, or where can I go next, and how do I have that conversation and connect with the people I need to move forward. So it's twofold in what I like to help people with.
Yeah, and I love that because it really does first start with self-connection, right? Like how can you
Mhm.
like it feels like people are like wandering around trying to connect with each other, but they're not connected to themselves. So like
Wow,
who are
yeah.
you showing up, right? To connect with somebody else. So I think that's really awesome that you have that first piece of self-connection. And then after people get that,
Mhm.
or while they're getting that, because it's a
Right.
practice, like we both know,
Yeah.
then you're moving into connecting with others as well, right? How
Yeah.
to do that, right?
Mhm.
Now I know who I am.
Mhm.
Now, how do I go and share that with
Right.
other people? Right?
Right.
So that's so amazing. And so far in your life, what are
Mhm.
some of the biggest lessons you've learned? Career, life, personal, professional?
Yeah. Gosh, one of the biggest ones is, in order for me to kind of to connect with myself, just I need quiet. I've learned that in the United States, we are a grind hustle culture, and we don't allow ourselves to have rest, and we don't allow ourselves that space or that quiet. I have 2 children who rely on me a lot, right? I keep the household up and running. My husband's there too. We're a good team. And I have learned that in order for me to show up for all of them, I need to prioritize and show up for myself first. And that is one of the biggest lessons I've learned, and also one of the hardest ones I've learned, um, because it's not just getting enough sleep, right? There's other types of quiet and rest that we can have in our lives. A lot that I've learned from you about how to like fill our cup. And the thing I like to talk about is overflowing my cup so that I'm still, even when I'm giving to other people, I'm still filling my cup. It's not like I silo those two things. Like I'm not filling my cup and then, giving it. I need it to be happening at the same time. So that looks like carving out time for myself every single day so that I'm not just giving, 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 hitting a wall, taking for myself, and they're not getting anything, because that's not really like an 18-month-old baby doesn't understand that, and they're not going to jive with what, what that looks like. So I
Yeah.
think yeah.
Yeah. And I think I love that you're sharing that because you shared earlier, right? Your old pattern
Mhm.
was to give, 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 give. You said
Mhm.
hustle, but it's really giving, right? Give, give, give,
Right.
give, give, do, 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 do. And then you wouldn't connect until you were forced to through illness.
Yeah, with myself. Could
Right.
not, didn't give myself the bandwidth, anything to connect with myself. And what that felt like for me, for everyone listening, it feels like I'm just in my head and I'm just like cycling up there, and I'm not really aware of what my body is doing. And I was also way more forgetful because I
Mm.
wasn't present. I would just be doing things. And then by the end of the day, I'd be exhausted. And I go, what did I even do today? What happened? And now, and that can happen really easily. And it still does for me with the kids. But what I find is if I can connect with myself every day, it allows me to like be more present with everybody. Yeah.
And I think that's a big point, right? That's a
Hmm.
big awareness. And I think it's one that everyone probably needs to like really embody, right?
Right.
Like
Right.
it doesn't have to be one or the other. They're happening simultaneously, right? You're
Hmm.
simultaneously filling your cup on a daily basis,
Right.
right? So it's the receiving for you and then the
Mhm.
giving to others. And it's a flow. And I think that, yeah, I just watch you and
Mhm.
all that you do. And it's yeah, it's a flow. It's practice and a flow.
And it's interesting you say it that way too, because it makes me think about connecting with other people, because there's a flow in that too, like that sharing and listening, like the giving, receiving. And it's the same thing in that regard too. So let me just take a step back of like how I connect with myself, because I just realized it doesn't always look the same each day, because the kids may need something a little different from me. But before I get out of bed each day, I connect with myself. I connect with God. I try to just settle myself before anyone else needs me. And that doesn't require me to have a journal or a pen or anything. It just requires me to have me and some just quiet alone time, which I can get before everyone wakes up. And then another non-negotiable is that I will journal, because writing for me is one of the best ways to get things out of my head,
Mm.
um, and for me to get some clarity, and for me to also check in with my body. So I'll check in. I use your journal. So I'll check in with what my body is feeling and do a scan and see what is coming up. And then I also check in with my emotions and I reflect on what I think the message is, or the guidance is coming in from those, so that I can, you know, do this for myself before I start doing it for my children. Because I check in with them every day too, but I need to do it for me first. Because when I don't, I'm just kind of like a squirrel on the road, just going from like one thing to the next. And that's just not any way I want to be living anymore. Um,
The hamster
yeah,
wheel,
it's
right?
constant.
What
Yeah,
people call the hamster wheel,
right,
right?
right.
Or you use squirrel, but yeah. So I think that's an important piece, right?
Hmm.
I have to connect with myself first before I can then give and connect with others. And then when
Yeah,
it comes to that connection with others, what do you think is the biggest lesson you've learned there, or the nugget of wisdom,
right.
like to communicate effectively, efficiently, successfully, whatever word you want to use? Like
Yeah,
what nugget of wisdom do you have for everyone listening?
man. I had 13 months in a really difficult job when I was working with you, when I became a manager, and an employee that didn't fully agree. with everything. And I learned that we were both coming from different points of view, different backgrounds. It was actually really challenging. But the thing that I learned was that I needed to have compassion for myself and for that other person. So I was like deep breathing compassion in for I was like breathing in compassion for myself and then just breathing it out for the other person because I just felt like there was already this tension that was there. And I just wanted the other person to understand that I wasn't out to get them. Because I think when you're starting to communicate with people, a lot of people go on the defensive out of fear, safety. Like there's so many things that can come to the table when you're talking with people, whether you know them or not. And they can be getting triggered by you or the situation. And sometimes, most times, people aren't aware that they're being triggered and how they're responding. So
Especially at work, right?
Yeah.
Especially at,
Oh
yeah.
my gosh, I see it all the time in the workplace. And so the biggest nugget is just having the compassion for yourself and the other person. And what that does for me is it calms me down. So it can still be an anxious, stressful moment. Um, but if I can listen to them and really if I can calm myself down and really listen and hear them, there's a better chance for me to understand them so that I can then share what I need to share. And there have been times where I haven't felt that reciprocated, and I have either respectfully removed myself and said we'll talk about it at another time, because I think people try to push and make those things work. So it's just allowing yourself the space so that you can be receptive to what's going on instead of just always being on the defensive and in your head no matter what's coming up.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's great because I think a lot of people, like you said, most of us are listening, but we're also thinking about what we're going to say next in order,
Yes.
right? In order to, like you said, be safe, right?
Yeah.
Defend, be safe, like
Mm-hmm.
prove ourselves. And especially, I think, especially in a work environment, but it can be anywhere with anyone. It could be personally too.
Oh
You know,
gosh, I've
most
learned it with
people,
my husband.
right,
Yeah.
right. So, I think most people are not consciously on the defensive, like you said. And
Yeah.
so if we can just go in with that energy of compassion, I think that really shifts
Mm-hmm.
for both people. So I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And not talking, just not listening just to think of what you're gonna respond. Is that then you're not actually hearing the other person. You're only hearing yourself. And you can't have a
Absolutely.
one-sided conversation, can you?
You'd be surprised. Many do.
Yeah.
Haven't you ever heard somebody say, I feel like I'm talking to myself? Like I'm
Yes.
just talking to myself. Like,
I guess that's why I became a connection coach so that we can kind of make sure
right,
that that doesn't keep happening.
right. Well, and connection is
Mhm.
everything. I
Mhm.
mean, no, it really is.
Right.
It's everything. So I'm so happy you moved into this line of work. I know at any time you start your own business, it takes a lot of courage. And
Right.
yeah. And so one last question, is there
Mhm.
any kind of nugget of wisdom or advice you want to give to other moms um, who are struggling to connect with themselves, right?
Mhm.
And I know
Mhm.
that's a big thing we've worked on, and that
Right.
it's super important. I know there's going to be a lot of moms listening to this,
Mhm.
a lot of
Right.
women, a lot of moms, and so yeah, I think moms lose them. And I'm not a
Yeah.
mom. Was not called to be a mom to
Mhm.
children, a mom to my clients, but yeah, I think that's a big struggle that I hear that moms have. They lose
Yeah.
themselves.
I think the biggest thing for me is we're not meant to do it all by ourselves. And that's something I'm still learning. It's really deeply ingrained in me on so many different levels, right? Um, because we could say, like, we want to set up boundaries for ourselves, we want to set up and carve out our time. And in the end, if we have this deep belief that we are meant to be there for everybody and be everything for everybody, I think that belief actually holds us back from being able to put ourselves first. So it's one, realizing that we are not human doers, we're human beings. We're not meant to be superwoman. I don't take it as a compliment when someone calls me supermom anymore. That's actually a trigger for me of like, whoa, okay, I need to ask for more help. And asking for help so that we can carve out this time is huge. And what I've learned even more is that we need to receive the help, because I have asked for help in the past and people are like, yeah, we'll be there. But I wasn't actually receiving the help. So here I am trying to still do everything, thinking I'm getting help, but I'm not. Any type of support. And that support that you can get, I used to believe it just had to be physical, like someone coming over and helping with the children, right? But I have learned that it also needs to be emotional support for me too, because I'm not meant to do all the emotional support for myself by myself, right? That's like having a coach and a mentor in you. That's checking in with my husband. That's my parents who help out with my children. That's friends that I can rely on to just kind of vent and get feedback. But the biggest thing is, we are not, I'll just reiterate it, like, we're not meant to do it all alone. We are not meant to take care of the kids, do all the laundry, the dishes, plan out everything for the house, all the doctor's appointments, right? Like, we're just not meant to do all of that and have a career. Like, can we do all of those things? Sure. And wouldn't it be really great if we had support to do those things? And we have those support networks. We just need to tap into them. um and if you don't have one, then I'm here. I'm here to help other moms. Like, this is what I love to do, is help them find those networks for themselves too, right? So yeah, I don't think being a super mom is a compliment anymore. Um and asking for
Well,
and receiving
yeah, and
help is important. Yeah.
I'm just thinking, like, as you're talking, this isn't just advice for moms. It's actually, I mean, it's great advice for moms, but it's actually advice for everyone, right? Because I'm just thinking about, like, how many times at work too, right? Not
Mhm.
not just at home, but when you're in your career and you're trying to do it alone too. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
not meant to.
it's no,
Even
no,
if
that
you run your
asking
own
for
business.
no,
Mhm.
no. So that asking for and receiving support, like, everyone on the planet needs to hear that.
Mhm. Yeah. And like, yeah, those are the two. Oh, and if I can add one little thing for moms, it's just easier going at your kids' pace.
Mm.
If someone told me that earlier, I don't know if I would have believed them. But I'm going to tell you, I have tried it. And I can either tell my son he needs to wear socks with his Crocs in sub-zero weather, or I can just have him put his Crocs on, carry the socks with me, go outside and him tell me his feet are cold, then put him on outside and go out the door. So I'd rather do that than be in a power struggle with a 3.5-year-old. Like, that's just, there are
That's great
things I've
wisdom.
learned. Yeah. Yep. Go at their
Well, and,
pace.
and it and it's funny because that again can be for anyone, because how many times are we on an emotional level, like especially when we're triggered, right? Like at work, someone's 3-year-old could be,
Oh yeah.
someone's acting from their 3-year-old. And so it's like, meet them where they're at, right? Like,
Never, yeah, meet them where they're at. And then you don't need to control other people. That's like a whole nother level of this too, right? It's gonna be all like a whole nother episode,
oh
and I'll
yeah.
take a note of that.
Oh yeah. We could go on about all of these important these important pieces. But
Yeah, yeah.
it's
Thank
been an
you.
honor and so fun to interview you today and give everybody a taste of Laura.
Oh,
And
thank you. I am just so like, thank you for your time and for helping lead this discussion because you always have little good nuggets. You've known me for so long. I feel like I'm a lifer and I'm really proud of that. And then thank you to all of you for listening. I'm just so glad you found your way to my part of the world. And if you'd like to learn more about me, I'll have a link in the description, but you can visit me at laurajeansouza.com. And if you or someone else you know has a story that is just calling to be shared, reach out to me. Let's chat because I'd love to listen. Thanks. Bye.